Okay. Looks like I might have solved. I'm back. If you guys are tuning in, I'm sorry. We just had some technical difficulties and I had to recreate this stream. So that is why I am starting this one a little bit non traditional. I am Ben. You are here with Speedrun Seeds. This is our weekly live stream, and I'm hoping everybody will be able to find the new stream. I'm going to need to bring in somebody who's a little bit more of an expert than I am on YouTube live streaming and find out if I could have gone back into the same one. But hey, Joe, how you doing? I'm gonna give people. I'm just gonna ramble for a minute and give people a couple minutes to hopefully find. I think we had almost 20 people that had already joined in, and hopefully they will find us again. Shane says you can hear me now. Okay, good. Yes. I have no idea what that was. I didn't change anything. All I did was stop the stream and restart it. I didn't plug anything, unplug anything. So bizarre, bizarre. Little fun troubleshooting session with YouTube. But but yeah, okay. Well, cool. Like I said, I'm gonna give everybody an extra couple minutes here before I get into anything really important. But for the few people that have made it back, see, you said it's not working on your PC. Does that mean just the audio or nothing? None of this is working. Can you not see me? D, you're at work watching. Don't get in trouble. I appreciate the dedication though. So yeah, I'll talk about some less critical stuff right now. This week, so yesterday we had our sticker printer arrive. So I've been waiting for this for a long time. I've been waiting to get our sticker printer for almost a year now. I saw this particular printer at a convention, and actually Derek from Dream Beans was there too. And he and I were standing there looking at it. I was like, that printer is printing those stickers in such high quality and so fast. And then I talked with the people who are selling the printer, and we got into the details of it. And I was like, there's no way I'm not going to get, or we're not going to get one of those uh, pretty soon in the future. Joe says, now it says you're live, all good. What happened? If you go to Speedrun Home YouTube, you can find the feed, but it's not on the live column yet. Oh, yeah, I'm sure it just took a minute to. And I'll go back and I'll delete the previous one because there's just going to be a video of me talking, not talking for 3 minutes, and nobody can hear me. So I'll go back and delete that one, and this one will be the right one. But yeah. So anyway, sticker printer. It just arrived on Saturday, yesterday, and I was under the impression that we were going to be receiving the blank stickers to print on with it, but apparently those are coming early this week. So it did come with some. So we ordered glossy stickers, even maybe some holographic ones. So the logo, the speedrun logo stickers that are going to be going out, those are going to be like holographic now, which are going to be really cool. And but it did come with some matte, like large, like pieces of sticker paper to print on as a test. And so I figured I would show you guys this, and maybe I'll even post a picture of it in the Facebook group. But I figured I would show you what we're getting off of this sticker printer. So check this out. We got some Pound Dog stickers here, and yeah, these are all on one like large sticker. I just did this as a test, so this is not what they're going to look like. But as far as like the size of them, they're not going to all be stuck to each other like this. But yeah, so you can see really really good quality on these, and yeah, so these are the Grand Theft Auto themed Pound Dog stickers. We're gonna have each strain will have video game themed stickers for it, and there may be more stickers or less stickers for a particular strain, but we are going to have so many awesome different designs. And is that my dog? That is a rendition of my dog. That dog's name is Kimbo Slice. It is named after a famous dog breeder dog. And so yeah, you can see pound. The joke here is that it's Pound Dog F5, and you can see like the F5 is like the Grand Theft Auto logo, but instead of being a dog like from the pound, it's a dog that smokes and sells pounds. So I thought it was clever. And yeah, so that just fell on the ground, and it's a very tall chair, so you're not going to be seeing that one again. but Kimbo Slice was a Street Fighter too. Kimbo Slice is actually named after the Street Fighter. Well, I'll explain it. So Kimbo Slice, my dog, is a reincarnation of Kimbo Slice, the Street Fighter. Large, muscular Street Fighter that was very famous at what he did. Ended up doing some UFC fights and stuff. And he died, unfortunately. And on the same day that he died, my dog was born and he was reincarnated in my small female puppy. And so I ended up adopting Kimbo Slice from the pound. They didn't even know that it was Kimbo Slice reincarnated in the body of a small, tiny puppy, but a female puppy. But I was able to figure that out pretty instantly. And so he was already embarrassed to be in his soul inside the body of a tiny female like Chihuahua mix puppy. So I decided to let him keep his name, Kimbo Slice, so that at least he would have that. So that is why my dog's name is Kimbo Slice, and that is the story of how I got her. So yeah, and then here's another one that I printed. This was our. I don't know how well you can see the quality on that, but regardless, maybe I'll post some pictures in the group. You got a lot to be excited. If you guys are sticker heads, if you like stickers, you are bearded outdoorsman. Got to show us sometime. She's on the stream pretty often, so you will see her if you keep watching these live streams. You will absolutely see Kimbo Slice for sure. Yeah, it looks like we've got pretty much everybody back that was here before, or at least the same number of people. But yeah, so this sticker printer, super high quality stickers, and we've got a bunch of different sizes and shapes. You guys are going to be stoked when you see what is going to be coming with the orders moving forward. And I will talk briefly about this because it's going to be starting soon. What we're going to do for these stickers is you are going to be receiving stickers in your orders, and there will be a number of stickers for a particular strain. Let's just say there are 10. So like for Pound Dog F5, maybe there'll be 10 stickers, and they're going to go out with every order. You might get a couple of stickers with every order, but they're not going to be two of the same stickers. They will be going out with the pre-order, yes, but they'll be going out with every order of seeds. They're going to every single order, anything that you order from us, it will be going out with. So the way this is going to work is you'll receive the stickers with your orders, and we're going to post. We'll probably pin it at the top of the Facebook group, and we'll post it on the Instagram. We'll make sure that it's visible, and on the website too. So you'll be able to see how many stickers there are for a strain and what they look like. You'll be receiving those in your orders, and there's going to be a race to collect the entire sticker line for a particular strain. So let's say there's 10 for Pound Dog. You will be trying to collect all 10 for that Pound Dog, and they're each going to be numbered on the back. So you'll get your sticker, you're going to flip it over, and you're going to see 1 of 30, because these are very limited run stickers, and there's an intention behind that. So it'll say 1 of 30, or it'll say 8 of 30, or it'll say 26 of 30. And you will collect those stickers. You can stick them to something if you want, as long as you keep the back of it. And, but I wouldn't yet until the competition part of this is over. So you will get the I guess, I don't know, we can call them competition stickers, collector stickers, and you will be able to trade them with each other. Hell, if you want to buy and sell them to each other, because there is a particular thing that's going to happen if you do collect all 10 of them. You should do an NFT strain. People have done that already. I'm not a big NFT guy, but yeah, so you will be able to collect all 10. And when you do collect that, one of the first prizes that we're going to give away, I'm not sure if it's going to be the Pound Dog one that we give it away for, but we're going to do an entire grow tent and light setup that's going to come with, we're going to do nutrient giveaways. We're probably even going to do nutrients for a year. So you'll get a starter kit, and you will get nutrient packets delivered to you on a regular basis for an entire year. So we're going to do big giveaways for this. So what that's going to mean is you're going to collect your stickers, get all 10 of them, or however many that we end up actually doing for a particular strain. The numbers will be on the back. My little initials will be on the back. And you'll send in pictures to us of your entire sticker collection with the front and back of the stickers visible. I have to send 2 pictures so that I can see, okay, yeah, like you collected, these numbers, and it's not like somebody took a picture of the entire lineup and then moved them to a different somewhere and took another picture and gave it to somebody else, because that, could happen. So you'll have to take a picture of the front and the back, and that'll let us know you've collected a fully unique set of the stickers on your own. And some of them will be more rare than others. So that is going to be the fun of, hey, who's going to get the rare ones, and are they interested in collecting all 10? If they're not, you're holding on to something really valuable, and somebody might offer to take it off your hands. So big prizes for that. And we just think the stickers printer thing is so cool, and it's going to be so fun to give them away. We wanted to add an extra level of, we like doing these giveaways, but we like to make it a little bit more fun than just our designs out to see now. Oh man. All right. Yeah. I will. It fell. This is a pretty tall chair, and it fell on the ground here. Let me grab that. Hold on one second. Oh god. Okay. All right. So yeah. Scooch back over here. Just for you, Paradox. Just for you. Did all that. So here are some of the designs. They're all going to be video game themed, and this is Grand Theft Auto 5 themed. And this is for Pound Dog F5, obviously. So just for people who are here now that were not here earlier, it is a dog that sells and smokes pounds. So that is one of them. And here's one of the other testers that I printed out. And just remember that these are matte. These are not printed. These don't look like what the stickers will look like. This was literally a test print on matte paper. They're going to be glossy. We're going to have holographic. They're going to look way better than this, actually. But this is just to show you the designs. And then the other one that we printed out, this was our little Yoda from the May 4th. May the 4th be with you. So it's hard to see with the low quality webcam, which we will be upgrading pretty soon here, but pretty hard to see, but super high quality print on these. And this thing is a killer. I love this sticker printer already, even though we haven't printed any of the real stickers yet. So top right is so dope. Which one? The one with this one? You're looking at this one? Or the one with the sunglasses? Sunglasses are, yeah. I love all of them, man. We had some very talented people help us out with the artwork for the strains, and super excited for it. I've been talking for a long time about this already, so I'm probably gonna stop. And then for people who have pre-ordered the nutrient line, we had a bit of a formulation issue, so we had to reorder a particular part of it, and we had a certain date where everything was intended to be ready by, and just as things can go in this industry, we had a little bit of a delay, but we have fixed the formulation issue. We are just waiting for delivery to take delivery of the part that we are missing at the moment. And that is when they're going to ship. We're very much expecting that to be midweek, end of week this week. So we are very close to that, and most of the parts. And then people who have been waiting, who have pre-ordered and been waiting, we are going to be throwing in a little bit of extra stuff in there for you, just to make sure that you're 100% covered, even though we know it's a little bit late, but we'll be taking care of you. You guys know we take care of people. So we will be doing that for the nutrient line. Bearded Outdoorsman says, love it. I wish my GTA logo would have made it. I tried to find that vector and couldn't find it. Well, if you find it, send it to us. We're happy to use all sorts. I love vectors. We all love vectors. All right, so let's see. We've got drops coming up. I have a favorite name that I saw somebody post for the Supreme runs crossed with Granite Haze F4. Aaron DeMeyer posted one that was, he said double jump. I thought that was good. It's a cool little video game term. And I like double jump. I just kind of like that as a strain name. But that was one of the ones that I really liked. And there was a couple other ones that were pretty good. So what I'm going to do is probably, midweek or so, I'm going to give people, remind you, I'll post that thread back up to the top, and maybe I'll include all the ones that people suggested so far in the actual comment, or in the actual post. But then I'll have you guys post more names so that, maybe midweek or so, we can start the voting and get that strain named. Because I want to drop that. I really want to drop that. It's such a great cross. And Nathan was just asking, when's the nutrient kits getting shipped out? It was just he probably just got here after I stopped talking about it. So I was mentioning that we had just a little bit of a delay. We had a little bit of a formulation issue, and we are going to be shipping that out as soon as that last piece, which we're having redone, arrives to us, which should be very soon, probably within a few days. Hopefully, before the end of the week, that will be in our hands, and then we'll be able. Everything else is already put together and ready to go. So we're just waiting for some of the specific packets that were not correct. So those will be going out. And I was just saying, anybody who's waited a little bit longer than what our estimated arrival date for those was, we're going to be taking care of you, and you will get some extra stuff in there. So cool, yeah. And then newsletter, we're kind of we changed the way that we're going to do that. We are going to be doing weekly newsletters, and the educational portion of it is now going to link to the blog posts that are. So we're going to send you, like, you'll be able to read the first part of like a blog post that's going to be in the email, and then it's also going to have a bunch of other news and speedrun developments and just stuff that happened in the week or will be happening next week. And the newsletter is going to be a little bit more stuff, and then you'll be able to click to the educational portion, which will be on the membership section of our website. And if you are getting the newsletter, chances are you're already a member, because that's, you gave us your email for that. So yeah, you will be receiving newsletters. We have like 3 different blog posts that we're ready to start sending out. We have the pest management one, and then we'll have one about what I'm talking about tonight. And there's a third one that's going to be about soil health, soil and root health. And whether we post those, I think we do it once a week. So you'll see the pest management one first, and then you'll see the one that I'm talking about tonight. You'll see that probably next week. And after that will be the soil and root health, and so on and so forth. We're gonna do deep dives into these subjects. So these are long blog posts. There's pictures, and we're talking like pages of information. So it's a lot to absorb all at once, but you'll be able to go back to, you probably hear that, can't you? You'll be able to go back to them and revisit that information to take it in. Ron asked, what are the parents of Final Boss? So that one is double O Kush. It's a double O Kush phenotype what we do with our phenotypes when we bring in a new genetic, we will, let's say we buy a 5-pack of seeds to be able to breed with, and be able to explore it to see if we're going to breed with it. We will cross it with itself, make the next generation of it, and we'll plant thousands of them in our canopy. We never bring in new genetics and just like plant them indoors and try to use them. We do like multi-thousand plant pheno hunts of any new genetic that we're interested in working with. And through that, we found this double O Kush phenotype where I was on a little Twitter radio show recently, and I was talking about this. I was not a fan of that double O Kush phenotype at the very beginning. I had to be really convinced that Eric, our other head breeder, really had to push for it because there was something in it that he saw that was promising. I'm so glad that he did, because he created that phenotype and stabilized that phenotype of that strain, which blended so well with our Granite Haze F4, or not Granite Haze F4. It was the Granite. I'm sorry. It was blended so well with that original Granite that we had made, which was the Hubba Bubba Smelloscope Haze crossed with a local breeder's genetic that was crossed with Derek Shore's Bear's Breath from Dream Beans. So all of those strains, polyhybrid, kind of came together, and we've been stabilizing it. It's a very excellent strain. You guys are going to be blown away when you see the bud structure and the frost. It just looks like high-end, super high-end photo period stuff. So really excited about that one. Okay, so I see Paradox getting maybe even into some of the topics we're talking about tonight already. Paradise says neem, karanja, mustard seed, and burn some coffee grounds. Never had a pest problem. That's one way to do it. Yeah, the neem is probably the thing that is the most effective of the things. If you're spraying that directly on your plants, then yeah, that's 100%. And then if you're doing a neem seed meal in your soil, that's also going to repel the pests. It does a really good job as a pest repellent. So yeah. Anyway, I think I covered most of the updates that I had. Oh, and just real quick, I'll talk about the new rewards program. So that one, every time you buy any product from us, doesn't matter what it is, you buy anything from us, you get a point. So it's separate from your loyalty points. You guys might have like a few hundred or a few thousand, some people, loyalty points right now, and you can use those to get discounts for free shipping, all sorts of stuff. Like if you've got, 500 loyalty points, you're not going to have to pay for shipping, like probably forever at this point because you'll be keep buying stuff and getting more. But then the level up rewards program is every time. What's up, Convict, Norma? Just say hello to people that are just coming in. Yeah, so every time you buy a thing from us, you will receive a single point, and those points will build up. And by the time you get to 10 points, you will get 10% off on all of your orders moving forward forever. You're just in the level with us that you will get 10% off forever. You build up to 20 points, you will get 15% off forever. And then when you get to 50 points, there's some people who have already, bought like 50 packs from us so far. And we are working on integrating some stuff to be able to give retroactive level up points. But if you do get to 50 points, when you get to 50, so some of the people in here will. So when you get to 50 points, you get 20% off on all of your orders forever. Just you're never going to pay the retail price again for our seeds because you will be getting 20% off just as the luxury of being a loyal customer. So yeah, that is that. I will get into the topic for tonight. I'm going to be talking about diseases, fungal pathogens we call them uh, in the commercial cannabis space. You guys might call them mold, mildew. So do we also, we call them that too sometimes. But really what they are is fungal pathogens, fungal diseases that can attack your plants in multiple different ways and cause all sorts of problems for you. So I'm going to be talking tonight about a few of the key ones that you'll probably run into in your growing career if you have not already. And there are plenty more, and we'll be going into a deeper dive into those other ones in the blog post about this, which will be linked in the next newsletter after this one that comes out. But yeah, so I'm sorry, guys. I have my OK Google thing turned on my TV, and it just turned itself on. Give me 1 sec.
They're gonna kill me. I have a bloodshot victim. He just arrived. Can't do that. I need your help on something else. Take me back to prison.
Okay. Sweet. Sorry about that, guys. I don't think I could have any more technical difficulties if I tried tonight. That was a first, though. My TV just turning itself on because it thought I said, "Okay, Google." That was good. Okay. So I want to talk about first what causes fungal pathogens in general. What are some of the things that can lead to you ending up with a fungal pathogen problem, and what can you do to avoid them? Norma was asking, do we plan to ship overseas anytime soon? Yes, we are putting that together right now. We are actually working with a couple different partners, one in Australia, one in New Zealand, one in the UK, and we have some others that are what's up, Colin? Colin, thank you very much. Colin actually played a part in some of the stuff that we're doing right now for overseas shipping. And yeah, so we are setting all that up currently, and we will be making those available to you. That you're going to see certain strains become available first. So you'll see our most popular 3 or 4 strains become available to you first, and then we will fill that out with the full lineup as we move forward. But that's where we're going to start. So the answer to that, Norma, is yes. So awesome. Yeah, that's one of the ones that you'll see first is the pound dog. Norma was saying that Norma, I don't know if I'm guessing that maybe a he, she. Norma's a she name. But she says she's in the UK, would love to try the pound dog. So yeah, that we're gonna make that available there. There are a few things that sorry. He wants to try the pound dog, and that will be available there. A few things that can lead to your plants getting diseases, and there's a few factors that make your plants more predisposed to end up with some fungal pathogens. So one of the first things is, as from the perspective of a breeder, genetics play a huge part in which plants are more likely to end up with fungal pathogens than others, which strains or which particular individual plants. And it's something that a lot of breeders stay away from, is breeding specifically for pathogen resistance, because there's not a very easy way to do that. So let's say you're trying to breed for powdery mildew resistance, which is one of the ones I'll talk about here. How do you do that? You would have to introduce powdery mildew into your grow space, into your breeding area to create plants that are resistant to it. And unless you are an expert in containing it and you know, uh, keeping it away from your other plants and treating it to the degree where you can see which plants would be affected by it and which plants are safe from it, but still seeing the fact that it's there, it's a very difficult thing to do. Now, one of the benefits of being able to do some breeding outside is that you can have very rough weather some years, and it gives you an opportunity to leave some of your areas outdoors untreated with the fungicides that we would normally use. You can just avoid treating some of your areas, and you will see certain individuals that end up with some botrytis or bud rot, and some that end up with some powdery mildew. And you can do all sorts of things to select for ones that didn't get it when all the other ones did. So, and I won't lie to you, not all of our strains are selected for um, pathogen resistance. It's just not really possible for us yet to get that deep into making sure that we've pathogen tested all of our strains. We have certain ones that absolutely have. The pound dog has absolutely been pathogen tested. We only selected individuals that in an area where there was powdery mildew and botrytis both, the only individuals that we selected did not get them, even if their neighbor might have. So genetics play a huge role. So certain plants genetically can be more predisposed to getting it. Paradox is asking, wouldn't you have to do tissue samples in each plant too? This sounds pricey. So you might be talking about tissue culture, which I'm going to get into. And then tissue samples, we send in tissue samples to our lab. We don't do pathogen samples. We do nutrient samples or nutrition, and we get mineral content on them. But you can also get pathogen samples. It's not actually as pricey as you might think for a commercial farm. So aside from the genetic predisposition that you might see in some of your strains, you will also see environmental factors that can cause a plant to be more likely to succumb to pathogens. And some of the biggest ones are weakness and damage. So if your plant has been damaged in any way, if it's been injured or if it's been overwatered or it's been, attacked by some sort of pest, you're at a higher risk of being subject to certain fungal pathogens like botrytis, especially. Botrytis is a pathogen that will enter in through a wound of a plant. So if you have done something to injure your plant and it causes some of the tissue to die at all, that is a breeding ground for botrytis, which is a bud rot. And that will be more likely to cause you to get botrytis than a plant that's never been injured. And some of the other things that environmentally are very high risk factors are your airflow. So airflow, if you don't have good enough airflow on all of your plants to keep all of the leaves slightly moving, slightly dancing, then you're not protecting your plants as much as you could be. And I've talked to a lot of people about their plants not having enough airflow. And oftentimes, one of the things that people go to first is, oh, not enough airflow, add more fans. You can do that. You can do that. But another thing is with your airflow that you have now, you could just move your plants a little farther away from each other if you have the space. And reducing that overcrowding is going to be a really good way to increase the airflow. And then also you can train your plants. You can train your plants to not be as so tightly bunched together like a lot of autoflowers do grow, really dense and really leafy. So some defoliation can help with airflow. Some training can help with airflow. Some planting density, reducing planting density, moving those plants farther apart can help with airflow. And then also, obviously, adding some more fans can also help. And making sure that there is fresh air if you're using a grow tent or a grow room, making sure that there's fresh air coming into your tent and going out of your tent, and that you're not just circulating the same air inside the tent. Not only because it's a higher risk for pathogen problems, but you're also going to run through your CO2, and keeping that air it's not airtight, but it is, you will run through the CO2 in that tent faster if you don't have pass through of air. So Also, another thing is overwatering. Overwatering not only damages your plant, not only makes it weaker and more susceptible to pathogens, but it also creates a high moisture, high humidity environment that can be more of a risk for getting botrytis or powdery mildew, bud rot or powdery mildew. And then also there are some other diseases like pythium. You guys might not have heard of pythium before, but that's root rot. So when you hear about root rot, um, there's a few different pathogens that cause root rot, but one of the most common ones is pythium, and that is where your roots get all slimy and gross, and uh, and it absolutely will, it can kill your plant. So not overwatering is a huge thing, and then also checking every day, every week. If you're in your grow tent, even if you're not doing a full, thorough every leaf in your tent check, keep an eye out on the areas that you think might be not getting enough airflow, like the lowest airflow areas, the areas where the plants are not directly in the path of the fan. And then, when you're doing your pest check that we talked about last week, I told you guys you want to check twice a week or once a week, preferably twice a week, for pests in your grow room. And when you're checking for those, you're looking at the tops and the bottoms of the leaves all over the plant, all over the tent or in the grow room, and look for pathogens too. And then I'm going to get into what some of the specific things that you can look for to identify whether or not you might be starting a mold problem. But yeah, so checking your plants as often as you can. And something I mentioned last week, which I'll mention again this week, is pretend if you've got somebody in your life that you look up to as far as growing, somebody that you take advice from. I used myself as an example last week because I know I've had these conversations with people, but think of somebody that you want to impress with your growing skills and pretend like they are there and you're showing them around your tent. That'll help you notice things that you might not have noticed when you're just kind of looking at it every day and you get some certain kind of blind to certain things. So pretend like you're showing it off to someone and you will notice things that you didn't notice before, looking for pests and for pathogens, or for mold. So I'm going to talk about botrytis first. And that again is bud rot, gray mold. Um, Botrytis comes in different colors. So it is always generally a shade of gray, but it can be so dark gray that it looks black. It can be so light gray that it looks white. So I have had experienced growers, come to me and say, I have powdery mildew. And they'll send me a picture and it looks like, it's inside the bud and it's none of it is on the outside of the bud, but it's white and it can look kind of powdery. It's not botrytis. So if it is inside of the bud, strictly on the inside of the bud, and even if it looks a little bit powdery, it's really fuzzy. It's got a fuzzy texture to it. And so botrytis or bud rot or gray mold, those are all names for the same thing, can be white. It can look white. So keep that in mind. If you're looking for fungal problems with your plants, it might not be powdery mildew just because it's white. So the way that botrytis gets into your grow, botrytis is everywhere. It is in the air outside. It is in the air inside. It is on the fruits and vegetables that you buy from the grocery store. It is in the soil that you plant your plants in. It is everywhere. You're never going to avoid it entering your home or your grow room. What you can do is prevent your grow from having the environmental factors that would allow your plants to be a victim to it. It can be there, but not hurt your plants, or it can be there in low quantities and not hurt your plants because your plants are strong enough to fight it off. And that is one of the most important things that you can do is keep your plants strong to fight that stuff off, because you're never going to keep it entirely out of even if you have a HEPA filter on your tent constantly, there are so many things that can cause it to be introduced into your tent. Paradox says, do you have recommendations for aeration for soil to help the overwatering problem? Drainage, really. Paradox is the only thing that I'm going to recommend for avoiding the overwatering problem is watering on the correct schedule, first of all, which is letting it dry out, letting your pots dry out before you water again. And if your pot is taking too long to dry out, that means that you don't have quite enough air, drainage in your soil, which can be, there's a lot of things that you can use to cause drainage. You can use pumice, you can use perlite, vermiculite can help with that. There's a lot of and then even using mycorrhiza can help with your soil structure and sort of get you more soil aggregates, clumps of soil, and that can cause some channels to be made through your soil that can allow water to drain out. So there's a lot of things that can be used. The bokashi that we have on our site, bokashi is great for adding some soil aggregation capability to your grow and helping you with better airflow, not airflow, better drainage in your soil. It says can't let it dry out, have living with worms, like to let it drop to maybe 30%. Yeah, when I say dry out, I don't mean bone dry, never bone dry. What I'm saying is you let it get light. So you should be lifting your pots at the beginning of your grow. You should be lifting your pots up pretty often to feel what it feels like when the pot is just recently watered and fully saturated, and then when it is at the point where it needs to be watered, where it'll be significantly lighter. 30%, that's fine, Paradox. You get it down to that amount and then you water again. And the surface might be dry, but you always have moisture. Otherwise, your plant would die for sure. So now, the botrytis, if it does attack your plant, it will colonize the leaves, stems, and flowers of your plant. So it will attach itself to the surfaces of the plant, and it can become a systemic pathogen, which means it can enter the plant tissues and it can move throughout the plant. Oftentimes, though, it stays on the surface if it's not a major infection. And so that means that you're looking at it can cause problems with not only your buds, but you look at your stems too, your stalks, especially that center stalk, and even the lateral stems. If you see anything that looks like tan coloration, looks like kind of dried out a little bit, looks fuzzy and gray, that means it is botrytis. You cut that entire limb off, no matter what. You cannot fix it at that point. You really, if you're seeing it that visibly, very unlikely that you're even going to control it at that point. Cut your losses, literally, and protect the rest of your grow. So, and I'm going to go over a procedure to do that, because it's very important that you remove the botrytis, you remove the bud rot in the correct way. And I see a lot of people end up with bud rot and they just don't remove it correctly. So I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. But yeah, so like I said, it can spread through the plant tissue, become a systemic issue. And that is true with a lot of these pathogens. Once your plant is infected, you cannot cure it without something called tissue culture, which means taking a piece of a meristem, a tiny little sprout from your plant, and sending it usually to a lab. Some people can do it at home, but usually it's going to be a lab that does this. And they will put it in a little plate of gel, and they'll use some hormones to regenerate it and take that tiny little meristem and turn it into a completely new plant. It's a very complicated and difficult procedure, and it's pretty new to the cannabis space. It's been happening in other crops for a long time, but as far as tissue culture happening in the cannabis industry, it's only the last few years that has really taken off. But you can clean a strain, you can remove all of the pathogens, all of the problems with it that are environmentally induced. You can remove those and just have a clean, just the genetics. There's no adulterant or anything like that. Very important thing. If you have a very special genetic that you're looking to save, for a lot of home growers, it's not necessarily affordable, but in the commercial space, happens quite a lot. And if you really want to get deep into being a hobbyist or making this your passion or your career, if you have the materials for it, you could even learn how to do tissue culture yourself at home. I've seen people doing it. So now, one of the things that you're going to look for if you're worried if your plant might have botrytis is, let's say you're looking at a bud, a relatively mature bud, and you see one dead leaf that is dead all the way to the inside, not just green coming out of the bud and then it turns brown after that. It is dead all the way into the bud. That is a telltale sign that could be botrytis in your bud, in bud rot inside that flower. And I have seen it countless times, and I would say 65-70% of the times where I see that very specific dead leaf that's dead all the way from the inside all the way to the tip, it is it's about 60 or 75 or 65 or 70% of the time, it is botrytis. I can just identify it at this point from 100 yards away, but it might take some practice to get used to seeing those signs and recognizing when you're seeing something that really is botrytis. So, and let's see some sad eyes there. It is a sad situation. So now botrytis, and when I say botrytis, remember I'm talking about bud rot here. The the thing that puts your plant at the highest risk is dead plant material. Dead plant material can get waterlogged, it can create a high humidity pocket, and it can be just a perfect breeding ground for botrytis spores. So one of the most common things that I see is you'll have your plant, and as you guys probably know, when the plant shows its gender, or I guess its sex, gender is a completely different construct that I won't get into. But when it shows its sex, it's got the calyxes that form it's got your female pre-flowers. Those pre-flowers last from before the full flowering cycle kicks in all the way to the end of the plant. And if something happens to your plant that causes those pre-flowers to die, that means that your plant is now going to absorb them. It's going to grow around those pre-flowers and the buds are going to get nice and fat, but at each node, you've got a little pre-flower on the inside, but your bud has grown around it. And that pre-flower, if it dies, you just trapped yourself a nice little piece of dead plant material inside your bud. So if you do happen to see that your pre-flowers have turned brown and your plant is going into flower, go through with a pair of tweezers or a pair of scissors, cut that dead plant material away without cutting into the healthy part of the plant. They should come right off. If they're really dead, you should be able to break them right off. That will protect you very well from one of the main causes of bud rot, which is just getting that dead plant material out of the inside of your buds. So if you see brown pre-flowers, dead pre-flowers, get rid of them. And it also will start on pistils too. So the pistils can kind of die. And that's when you have a plant that has very lightly infected with botrytis, you'll open up a bud and you'll see it is just gray and fuzzy right along the pistils. So it's just another reason. It's just another bit of dead plant material that is the entry point for botrytis, really the attack point. So now, when I said you're wounding your plant, botrytis enters through a wound. So let's say you're doing heavy defoliation, or you are, it is not really an issue that you're looking at as much with topping because this is in the vegetative stage, and you're not going to see that as much. This is really a flowering stage problem, which is not the case with powdery mildew. But with botrytis, topping is not so much an issue, but defoliating heavily in the flowering cycle absolutely can be an invitation to botrytis to infect your plant. And anything where you're damaging, physically damaging the plant is an invitation to botrytis to come and attack. So, and then also touching your buds excessively. And I know it is so tempting to go in and touch the buds and smell your fingers and all that. It is so fun. It's awesome. I do it. I'm guilty. But I also wash my hands before I go into the grow room every time, or I'll wear gloves. But if you've been outside, if you've been touching fruit in your kitchen, if you've been in your refrigerator, if you're doing anything in the world that involves, being around anything that came in from outside, or it is food or anything like that, don't touch that stuff and don't touch your buds. Wash your hands first, man. Like, that's such an important thing to remember, is keep your grow hygiene, keep that to the highest level, and you'll avoid so many of these problems. But opening your buds and touching them and all those sorts of things, it can cause little micro tears in your buds and in your plant tissue that can invite the botrytis in, and B, it can introduce some of the stuff that's on your hands to the bud. So Joe was saying, yeah, it's so tempting. It is, and you can still do it. Just keep your hands clean, and keep your plants cleaner. So very, very important thing to remember there. And then also, I have conversations with people on the commercial side with clients. We have a lot of commercial clients that we work with on a regular basis, and I have a lot of people that reach out to me on the social medias, and I will see people running their plants in the flowering cycle, and they'll say, "Hey, what's wrong with my plant?" And I'll ask them for all sorts of information, but one of those things will be their relative humidity. And the relative humidity is something that is a direct parallel. It's a direct. So as the relative humidity goes up, so does the risk of botrytis in flower. So ideally, in late flower, once your buds are really, starting to form and all of the nodes are kind of touching, you're going to want to reduce your humidity to as low as you can without it affecting the plant negatively. I always say 40% or lower if you have big buds in your tent. You could really put a strong dehumidifier in there and remove as much of that humidity as possible. In the vegetative stage, it's less of a risk for botrytis, so you can keep the humidity higher. But in the flowering stage, you want to keep your humidity extremely low in relation to the veg stage. So, and then also if you're growing outdoors, protect your plants from the rain if you can. Don't let them get soaked. If you've got a way to cover your plants, if they're just small plants on your deck or whatever, bring them inside and don't let it rain on them. And then, some of these other things, people will build little structures over their plants. They have little hoop houses. There's all sorts of things that you can do to protect your outdoor plants from getting waterlogged and soaked. But you can't always protect them. So if they do get soaked, get the water off of them pretty quickly. Use a leaf blower if your plants are big, shake them off if your plants are small. There's all sorts of things that you can do to get the water off of those plants because yes, buds are water repellent. The beads on them and it comes off of them pretty easily, but they also have a lot of crevices and that water will get in there and it will create high humidity pockets and you will be at much higher risk for botrytis if your plants are harvesting into the rainy season or if you're getting a lot of rain in your late flower. Sage says too tropical of a climate here to keep outdoor grow going and too many pests for me. That's a shame, Sage. You have to remind me where you are, but yeah, that is 100% an issue. And like Hawaii is a huge issue. People fight against so many mold problems in Hawaii because of the high humidity, and Florida can be an issue too. A lot of places along the East Coast. So yeah, and then okay, I'm going to talk about the procedure for removing botrytis from your grow room. So let's say you're new to our little relationship here with me, kind of helping you guys through some stuff, and you've got some plants, and you didn't listen, you didn't start with any fungicides, you didn't whatever it is, doesn't matter the reason, you end up with some bud rot. Now, the way that you're going to best try to save the rest of your plant is not to try to treat the bud rot. Do not try to treat the bud rot. Get rid of it. Let's say it's a full branch and the bud rot's all the way down here and it's on the stem. Cut it 1.5 inches or 2 inches below where it is on the stem. If it's just on a bud, you can try to remove just that bud. I highly recommend just removing the branch though. So that is the best way to try to treat your plant, but the way that you're going to do that is very specific. So the way that I have always done this, and I have found it to be effective in preventing the spread of the botrytis, because you got to remember the botrytis is sporulent. It means that it will send off spores. If you were to go ahead and flick a plant that has botrytis, you will see a puff of gray mold spores going everywhere. And now you've just coated your entire grow space with botrytis. So what you're going to want to do instead of trying to cut it off immediately is get yourself a bag, something that doesn't have any holes in it. A bag with no holes, get it over very carefully over the area that's infected, and then get your hand inside the bag. Cinch the bag closed. So now you've got your stalk right here, the bag's around the plant, you got your hand into the bag, cinch it closed, snip where you think you need to snip. If it's a clear bag, you'll be able to see, and then kind of just with your hand still in the bag, cinch it, pinch it closed, take your hand and the bag, hand still in the bag, take it outside as far away from your grow as you possibly can, then dispose of it and you should be wearing gloves, by the way, for this. Take the glove off, leave it in the bag, seal it up, airtight, put it in your trash can, get it away from your plants. Do not just try to snip the branch off and have it send those spores everywhere. Sage is saying throws Joe says throws out hand too. Some situations I've wanted to. Sage says try not to disturb it as much as possible and do not let and not as not to disperse the spores. 100%. That's what we're doing here. So absolutely keep the area segregated. Turn all of your fans in your grow space off. Forgot to mention that. Turn all of your fans off. The airflow fan, the circulation fans, everything should be off. No airflow for that time. Get rid of that part of the plant. Come back in, then turn your airflow back on. Wash your hands, change your clothes, 100%. Be very, very careful with that kind of stuff because it will spread to the rest of your plants. And already you know that plant has been infected. So it's at much higher risk for the rest of it being a problem. I'm going to go a little bit, maybe like 5 or 10 minutes over tonight because we had that technical difficulty and I spent some time kind of talking about nothing at the beginning. But I'm going to get into powdery mildew here. So I mentioned botrytis. You will see it on the insides of your buds, and it'll look gray, black, white, or fuzzy, but on the insides of your buds or on the stalk, and it'll be kind of like a mat of mold. It'll just be all kind of attached to each other, like a section that's all covered in mold. Powdery mildew, on the other hand, can happen on the leaves, stems, outsides of the buds, also on the insides of the buds, and it will look like splotches. It will be little round splotches that can often be connected and touching each other. And it's a very distinct pattern. Once you see it once, you will know it for the rest of your life. And there are other things that people can think might look like powdery mildew, like if you are treating your plants with a pesticide or a foliar spray, and the foliar spray or whatever you're treating them with settles on a leaf and then dries, it can leave a little water spot or a little spot of water that had something in it. So it looks like there's something there. And you'll see water spots all over your leaves. And it can sometimes look like that. Sometimes it'll catch your eye and you'll say to yourself, ooh, that could be powdery mildew. But it usually isn't. If you've been spraying your plants and you're taking care of them well, usually you're looking more likely at a water spot. And I can post pictures in the group to make sure that people can distinguish, and on the Facebook, on the Instagram, to make sure that you can distinguish. But yeah, so white spots that look like powdery, it's powdery mildew. They look like powder. What you're really seeing is filaments, what we call hyphae, which is the little strands of mold that occur on the top of the leaf. Now, something that I want you guys to remember is that powdery mildew is not a surface problem. Powdery mildew stabs into your leaves with something called a penetrating peg, I believe. It has a little portion of the actual mold body itself that stabs into the leaf. It creates I'm forgetting what the round thing is called. It's a long name, but it creates a little mold body inside the leaf, not on the surface. It stabs in and creates a little sphere of mold inside the leaf. So just because you rinsed off your leaf does not mean that you've gotten rid of the powdery mildew. It means that you can't see it on the surface anymore, but it will absolutely come back. If you do have plants that are infected with powdery mildew, highly recommend taking them away from all of your other plants and segregating them if you can, and then do a heavy defoliation away from everything else outside if you can. And then also you're going to want to treat heavily with a fungicide. And there's a lot of different fungicides that you can use to treat powdery mildew, which will keep it at bay. It will not cure your plant. If you have a photoperiod plant that you were looking to keep as like a mother plant and you want to make clones off of it, if it's been infected with powdery mildew, you've got a major problem because you're very unlikely to completely get rid of it. With autoflowers, as long as you can keep it at bay and keep it contained, usually you can get a harvest off even if your plant has been infected with it. So what you want to do then is there are things like hydrogen peroxide, where you can use a diluted spray of hydrogen peroxide, and I can post some stuff on the website that will give you guys an idea of how much hydrogen peroxide to add per gallon of water. But what you're going to want to do there is spray the surfaces, spray your soil, treat everything in the area, treat your tent. For powdery mildew, hydrogen peroxide works. For botrytis, for bud rot, powdery mildew does not work. botrytis is resistant. Most strains, actually, well, many strains of botrytis are resistant to hydrogen peroxide. And that is something that is not known in the cannabis world. People don't know that you cannot kill botrytis as easily. Most strains of it, you cannot kill it with hydrogen peroxide. So just keep that in mind. Use something like a bacterial fungicide. There are a few different ones that I really like that we use. We use one called Double Nickel. It's a commercial fungicide, but there's versions of it. There's one that's called Monterey Total Disease Control, and that is uh, it's a home grower version of the same strain of bacteria that can help protect your plants. And Sage says, this is a very good point, Sage. Be sure to spray the upper and underside of leaves every time, no matter what you're spraying. So like the sprayer has usually a little tilt on it. Spray upward, so this is your leaf, spray upward, and then spray on top. Every surface of the plant should be covered, undersides and tops. Very good point, Sage. Thank you for mentioning that. So yeah, but what I was kind of saying is that the powdery mildew, it attaches into the leaf. So treating it, containing it, removing it as much as you can is the best that you can do. And the thing that causes powdery mildew the most is low airflow and high humidity, but low airflow especially. Even in rooms that don't have excessively high humidity, I have seen overcrowding and plants that are touching each other, or areas where, let's say you've got 2 rows of plants. One plant, one row, it is nice and breezy there, but then the back row, not breezy anymore. That back row is like, in the bottom side of the back row that's against the wall or something like that. I have seen powdery mildew happen, and people don't notice it because they don't go back there and check. They don't look at every surface of their plants. They don't rotate them. And that is how powdery mildew can start really easily. So don't overcrowd your plants. Don't put them up against a wall and not have any airflow back there to prevent the powdery mildew from happening in the back. And I see it all. Actually, I see it all the time in the group where people will post pictures and I'll see powdery mildew. Don't always say something. Sometimes I'll send people a direct message or private message because I don't want to tell everybody this person's got powdery mildew. But yeah, so I see this a lot. So this is something that you should always be aware of is airflow in your tent and make sure that you're keeping that good. Now, sanitation is another huge thing. Clean your tents regularly. I would say once a month at least. Take everything out, clean every surface. Personally, I use something called peroxyacetic acid, or it's also shortened to peracetic acid. That is an It's usually mixed with hydrogen peroxide, which is an oxidizer, and it is, xylitol. There's one called oxidate. There's one called sanidate. Those 3 products, those are really good sanitizing agents that are made specifically for agriculture. Some of them are even marketed toward cannabis. Take everything out of your tent, clean it, everything, break it down, clean it, and then put everything back in. Especially if you're going from veg into flower, you will see if you've had mold problems in the past, if you've ever had them, or if it's a rainy, week or few weeks where you live, or something like Sage said, if your area is really humid, even if it's humid outside, inside your house is going to be humid too. So keep your area very clean. Your tent, your whatever you're growing in, keep it extremely clean. And Ed says, are those safe on tents? The hydrogen peroxide, yes. Peroxyacetic acid, yes. Alcohol, yes. Most tents. Some of these less expensive tents can sometimes be a little bit weaker and have holes in the plastic that lines the canvas or mylar. So should be, yes. Those tents are waterproof, and that's what would protect them from these things. It doesn't burn through anything. But yeah, so airflow, keep it sanitary, and then also humidity low in the flower. Keep your humidity as low as you can, around 40 or lower. 35 is fine. Don't get really, really, really low, like below 20. You're having yourself a bad day with your plants having a bad day with the humidity being that low. But yeah, and Something also to mention is while botrytis goes after dead plant tissue, the powdery mildew will attack perfectly healthy plant tissue. Your plant can be beautiful and vibrant and look amazing and get attacked by powdery mildew. It will happen. So if you've got powdery mildew or if you had it in the past, I can't stress that enough. If you had one grow in that tent or in that area that has had powdery mildew, and you have not cleaned every, you could even use bleach if there's no plants in there. You could use bleach and clean every surface, but whatever agent that you're using to kill stuff, make sure that it kills those things. Google it or message us, whatever. But clean your area, your pots, your watering containers, everything. Even your nutrient bottles. If they were in the tent, clean the outsides of them. Literally everything needs to be cleaned. So real quick, I will talk about Pythium. Pythium is what a lot of people refer to as root rot. Root rot happens. It is also an opportunistic fungal pathogen, just like botrytis. So if you have damage on your roots, it's more likely to attack in that way or through that entry point. But it's really overwatering that's going to cause root rot. Pythium. And again, there's a few different pathogens that are responsible for the general term root rot, but the most common is Pythium, and it will cause your plants to get like a orangey brown, moldy, slimy, your roots, I mean, to get that kind of slimy, messed up texture. And you will see sometimes it will move up the plant and it'll look like stem rot, where if you jiggle your plant, if you jiggle the stalk and it looks really loose where the stalk meets the soil, very good signifier that you've got stem rot, root rot, usually coming from the same pathogen, which in most cases is Pythium. And it can be prevented by not watering too much. Also, avoiding watering around the base of your stalk. So if you've got a soil that does not have great drainage, avoid watering around that base for a couple inches once the plant has obviously gotten large enough so the roots have passed that point. But avoid watering around that area so you've got a nice little bit more dry area right around the base of your stalk, and that'll help prevent your kind of stalk rot, stem rot, whatever you want to call that. So also high drainage soils. Now this is an issue sometimes with people who don't have the time, to water their plants every day or multiple times a day. Sometimes when the plants get bigger or later in flower, but highly recommend a soil that drains very well, where you water it and you know you get runoff relatively quickly, and it dries out a little faster. But it also means you're refreshing the nutrient load more often. You're giving it those nutrients more often, which the plants love, and you're also not at risk of overwatering, even though you might not have added too much water. It just means that your soil doesn't drain well enough. Like there's very high compost soils, like high percentage of compost can really be an issue with overwatering and drainage problems. Sage says, I love using wooden skewers in my pots to tell when they need watering, unless you know the weights of the pots for when to water. That's a good way to do it too. Yeah, is to kind of check the moisture of the wooden skewer there. And then Norma says, cocoa/perlite for the win. Yes, great combo. Coconut coir and perlite, just classic. Works great. And the percentage of perlite that you're going to use will depend on the texture of your cocoa. The cocoa that is more clumpy and has larger chunks will drain faster than the cocoa that is really well shaved and looks kind of like more like soil. So all of these things, keep these in mind. And if you're building your own soil, make sure you build in enough drainage. If you're buying a very common soil, usually those people have put enough thought into it and have done enough testing on their soil so that it drains really well. And that's why I recommend the Sunshine Mix number 4 if you're using like an inert media, because that Sunshine Mix number 4 has great drainage, really great drainage, even a little bit better drainage than the Pro Mix. So those are the two that you'll hear me mention a lot, and that's one of the reasons I prefer we use the Sunshine Mix number 4 from SunGrow, because it's got great drainage. So then, yeah, you will see when we go into the deeper dive on the blog about this, you will see some products that I'm listing about control of the pathogens. And Again, there are ones that will create a systemic resistance in your plant. It will cause your plant to be internally more resistant to the pathogens, and that is a great way to prevent these things, because when you're doing your IPM, integrated pest management program, you want to work a fungicide into, excuse me, that program. And some of those fungicides just make your plant stronger and more resistant to the pathogen. It's not something that kills anything on the contact or the outside of the plant. But then there are some that are like bacterial fungicides, like that Monterey disease control one that I mentioned. It colonizes the area. It competes with the botrytis. So it colonizes areas and is in competition with the botrytis or the powdery mildew. So it cannot colonize those areas when that bacterial strain has already colonized it. And it's not bad for you or anything. You know, you can, it's not harmful. And that's the other thing that I should really mention is if your plant is infected and you harvest and you find it on your plants after you harvest, guys, don't smoke it. Don't smoke it. You might be able to turn it into extract in some cases. Edibles are even safer if you're desperate, but I would honestly say throw it away if you can. If it's your medicine and you need it, absolutely do some research before you try to ingest it. I would. There are very specific processes for mold remediation to get it to be safe, and I'm going to say just as a safety thing, never consume in any way any plant that you know is infected with mold. It can really cause problems with your lungs and your stomach and all these things later on in life. So just be very careful with that. And but yeah, so antimicrobials, systemic resistance, competition products, and then contact killers like hydrogen peroxide, all of those things are ways to treat your plants preventatively to reduce the chance of you getting any pathogens, which you should always do. Prevention is key. Treatment is much more difficult. If you have it already and you're trying to treat it, it is much more difficult. So I think I've pretty much covered most of the bases I wanted to cover tonight. And make sure I'm not missing nothing here. Got root rot, got your powdery mildew, got your botrytis. Yeah, so those are the three main ones that I wanted to cover. I'm happy to take some questions about pathogens, fungus, mold and mildew. I'm happy to answer some questions here for the next 3 minutes or so. Like I said, I'm going a little bit later tonight because we had that technical difficulty early on, and I ended up kind of waiting for people to get in to the chat here. So, does silica play a role in preventing these diseases at all? Yes, silica can make the cell walls of your plant stronger. So, silica can prevent damage from happening to your plants, which also prevents it as acting as like an entry point for the mold and mildew. So the silica is also great to protect you from pests too. It will strengthen your cell walls, and the little proboscis, the mouthpiece of that sap sucking insect, cannot penetrate into your leaves. Calcium as well is another one that does that. But silica does a great job of strengthening your cell walls, making your plant overall stronger and more resistant to mold, mildew, and pests. Very good question, Paradox. The answer is yes. Maybe not as much as some people might think, but it does bring some resistance. And I would just say, you know, the thing to let's see, can I use calcium carbonate powder for what in particular? For feeding your plants, for giving them calcium? I will wait for a yes or no on that. I'll talk about it a little bit though. Calcium carbonate is not as available to plants as calcium nitrate or like a mold resist. It says oyster shell powder has calcium and chitin would recommend that. Yeah, so you want to use there's I think it's potassium hydroxide is a thing that you can use that is a good mold fungicide topical. Calcium, I wouldn't say calcium carbonate powder is going to be your best bet for being a fungicide or a mold resistance product. And then also you see a lot of those calcium carbonate liquids and a lot of calcium carbonate powders that people use in organic growing. And I always like to mention when people mention calcium carbonate, it is not as available as calcium nitrate. You need a lot more of it, and it takes longer for it to break down, to mineralize in your soil than calcium nitrate. As soon as it dissolves in water, it becomes instantly available as nitrate and calcium. So it's got an available form of nitrogen and an available form of calcium. Plant takes it up, no problem. Calcium carbonate breaks down a lot slower, and it takes more of a process to get there, to get to an available form of calcium. So keep that in mind. If you're using calcium carbonate products as your only calcium source, you're going to need more of it than you would need calcium nitrate. Is there an IPM drench or brew that you would recommend making from local ingredients like apple cider vinegar or something of the sort? I would say neem oil, guys. Like neem does a good job, a relatively good job, as a fungal resistant, a fungus. I wouldn't say a fungicide. Yes, you call it a fungicide. But paradox, honestly, I've never been one of those growers who does a lot of the, household, like I'm not talking down about it. There are plenty of things that do have uh, fungicidal properties to them. I have always gone with things that have been produced specifically for that. If you do have some hydrogen peroxide in your bathroom, the 3%, you can dilute that down by, about 1/3 hydrogen peroxide to 2/3 water or so, and you can use that. Apple cider vinegar, I'm not 100% sure if that is one that works particularly well. I've never used it, but yeah, it says Paradox says I have access to a lot of local farms and herbs, so I try to get that route if I can. I understand those, still great tips. Yeah, there are plenty of natural things that you can use. I would just say, I don't want to give you any straight recommendations other than the things I know for sure. But maybe I'll post a little blog post or a little mini blog post about that. Is things that you can use around the house that are either bro science or actual science, because there are. I've seen people spraying milk on their plants and all sorts of things that can be major issues if they're not done, understanding what that actually does for you. So, okay, guys. Well, I think I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up. I apologize about the little technical difficulties that we had tonight. I'm glad that we got that figured out pretty quick, though. And oh, right, I said I would do a giveaway. So I've got 22 people still here. I'm gonna go ahead and just do it the same way as we did last time, because during for 420. And what we're going to do is I'm going to send somebody, let's say 15 stickers, different stickers, all sorts of stickers, a whole sticker pack. And you will get all sorts of different speedrun stickers, holographic, non-holographic, square, round, all sorts of stuff. So somebody here, because we talked so much about stickers earlier, you guys are going to get some stickers, and there will be some seeds in that pack too if we send it out to you. So when you guys are ready, I am going to pick a comment that I see here in the feed. Any limited edition, Joe, most of these stickers are limited edition. We're printing very few quantity, very low quantity of all these stickers. So some of them are extremely limited edition, like very limited. And some of them will even be part of those competitions to collect all of the stickers and win something from, collecting all of them. So if you happen to get one of those from this giveaway and it's one of the rare ones, like, you're going to be holding on to something ultra valuable where somebody was going to want it from you, and then you're going to want to collect all the rest of them because you've got the rare one. Like, there might be 30 of all these other ones, but there might only be like 8 of some. So in the entire world, just be aware of that. And the sticker giveaway, if you don't happen to be in the US, this is open to you also, because this stuff we can ship out to wherever. So, okay, yeah. So I'm going to pick a comment here. If you guys don't mind, if you want to stop commenting just for a minute, and I am going to write down a number on this piece of paper, and I'm going to tell you guys a range of numbers, and then the first person to either get the number, or after I have you guys stop commenting, and I will pick a comment that that is the end. So it'll be between those two comments is where we're going to be looking for the answer. Whoever got the closest or whoever picked it first is going to be the winner of this one. And we're going to do one giveaway tonight. So let's see. I'm going to do... okay. How many guesses? You guys can guess more than once because it's a time limited thing here. So guess as many times as you want. And and after I say go, and then I'll stop it after a certain time, and whoever got there first is going to get it. So, all right. So it's going to be a number between 20 and 80. Number between 20 and 80. Go. So I see how many guesses from Joe right here. That's the last comment. And I will tell you guys to stop after a certain amount of time here. And then I will. All right, so we're going to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stop. Okay, I see the Fox guy said 58 right there. That's the last comment. And if there's like one that's like right after that, we'll accept it. But Fox guy 58 was the last comment. And here, I will show you guys the number that I picked. So you're looking for 53. So between Joe's last comment there, which was how many guesses. So for after that comment, it says how many guesses. And then we're looking for the closest to 53 before that last one, which was the Fox guy saying 58. So I see a 55 there. Look at 51. Norma might be the closest. I think we might have a winner here. 56. Yeah. Can you guys see anything closer than the 51 from Norma that I saw? Norma with 51. Okay. Norma, you are tonight's winner. Get your name down here. And you won the sticker pack. Norma, were you here at the beginning of the stream to see the stickers that I showed everybody? Oh, wait. Did Bearded Outdoor get a 52? Sorry, wait. Let's not wrap it up just yet. Hold on. Was I wrong? I'm relying on you guys for some help with these giveaways. So if I get it wrong initially, correct me for sure. But remember, it was between Joe Natoli saying how many guesses and the last one being the Fox guy saying 58. So was there a closer one between those two numbers? I see the 51 from Norma. I see a 50 from Joe. 55 from Bearded Outdoorsman. 44 from Bearded. 80. I'm not seeing it. Maybe it's not showing up on mine. Oh, it was after. How many after? If it was like within a couple, I will accept it. We'll figure out a better way to do this too. I'll take suggestions for sure. But okay, 50 Fox guy saying 58 was right there. 50, okay, yeah, it was like 10 numbers after that. Yeah. I would say the 53. I mean, sorry, the 50, was it 51 from Norma? I think that was the fairest, closest one, is what I would say. Okay, well, Bearded, if you're placing any orders anytime soon, why don't you, if you're on Facebook or if you are on any of the social medias and you follow us, find me, send me a message, and you will get some extra stickers with an order or something. We'll work something out for you because you are really close to. And it's hard to know that when I said stop that you hadn't already like hit send. So we'll take care of you too. I want to make sure that nobody feels like they got the short end of a stick here. So, okay, guys, I'm way over the time. I am going to wrap it up. Thanks for hanging out. I will see you next week. Next week, we're going to be talking about soil health, root development, all that good stuff. And thank you for spending some time with me tonight. Love you guys. Happy Sunday. Have a good week. I will see you on the social medias. Bye.